Sides and vertex.
Sides and vertex. So angle is formed by two blank rays with a common blank. So what do you think go on those two blanks?
The first one's sides.
Sides. Well, the sides are formed by what?
They're formed by the rays.
They're formed by the rays. But what can you say about the rays?
They have a common vertex.
They have a common vertex. That common vertex actually comes from the common endpoint, right? So it only becomes a vertex when the angle is formed already. But the blank rays, they have endpoints in common, which is point A, right? And then what else can we say about the rays? So they can form sides of an angle. Are they forming a straight line?
Yeah.
Okay, so yes or no? Let's decide on that. No.
Yeah.
So what do you call rays that don't form a straight line? Non? Non-collinear. Very good. Awesome. All right. Good job, Catherine. So an angle is formed by two non-collinear rays with a common endpoint. Now that common endpoint, Zuba said, becomes the vertex, right? And then the two non-collinear sides that Catherine mentioned, they form the sides. Okay, now what else can you see on each of the two sides? You see one point there, you see one point here, right? We need those letters later on to form the name of an angle. So how can we name an angle? To name an angle, naming an angle. By the way, an angle also separates a plane into two parts. The interior is any region that's inside the two sides. Everything outside is the exterior. Now, to name an angle, you can name it in three ways. First, you can use a capital letter at the vertex. So angle A, just one letter at the vertex. You can also use three letters, one from each side, but the vertex has to be in the middle. Let me say that again. One from each side, and then the vertex has to be in the middle. So angle, you have to put the letter A in the middle, and then you can switch C and B interchangeably as long as the A is fixed at the center. So whatever is in the middle, that's the only letter that can be alone or stand alone. Okay, and then number three, you also see a small red number inside, so you can name it angle 1. There you go. But if, for example, the 1 has a degree sign over it, then you cannot use it to name the angle. Does that make sense? Because once it has a degree, it's telling you that the measure of the angle is actually 1 degree. So, but if it doesn't have any degree sign, then you can use it to name the angle. Does that make sense? Okay. Now, sometimes they give you a small letter inside the angle like this. Can you use it to name it?
Yeah.
No, because it has a degree sign. That means they're asking you to find its measure. Does that make sense? Okay, please silence your phone. Thank you. All right. So, other questions about naming an angle? Is it clear on how to name them? Yeah? Okay, so now let's move on to the next one. Open your workbook to page 20. I think it's 22 if I'm not mistaken. Page 22. If I'm wrong, just correct me. Okay, on page 22, you will see a big picture of a protractor. Now, what does a protractor do? It's like a ruler for angle. It tells you how wide or narrow an angle is. If you can please copy the big ones on that page, that would be nice. The first one is called protractor postulate. What is a postulate? A postulate is something that we just accept without proof. You know, in real life, they always say mom is always right. Did you ever do you ever get tired of that saying? I grew up in a strict household, And then if I'm gonna begin asking mom, she'll be like, nope, because I said so. And mom is always right. So in your case it may be different. Whoever is, the adult in charge of you, they would say, just do it, right? Okay, so postulate. Postulate is something that we just accept without proof. No questions asked. It is accepted to be true. So protractor postulate, you can also copy from the other one, whichever is closer to you. Protractor postulate indicates that the measure of angles can be between 0 and 180. No more, no less. We can't have a negative angle. We can have a 270-degree angle in geometry. Let me say that again, in geometry. Next year, when you go to pre-calc, you'll have angles that are more than 360, more than 540, etc., etc. But in geometry, we're just going to be on that half plane from 0 to 180. Okay. Now, the other green one, if you could please copy that down, is called the angle addition postulate. So, what does it mean? It means that if you have two smaller slices of angles, you can combine their measures. You can add up their measures to form a bigger one. So, if you take a look at the example on your workbook on page 22, Quincy, do you want to follow along? Okay, here's an example. Point D. Huh? You talking to me?
Oh, no. He just gave me water. I was just saying.
Oh, okay. So, for example, point D is in the interior of angle EOC, where angle EOC is this one. Okay, there you go. So, D is in the interior of angle EOC. So, if you take a look at the two smaller pieces, this ray splits that angle into two smaller portions. So this is now angle EOD. Let's call this one angle 1 and let's call this one angle 2. All right. So what basically is saying is that to find the measure of the whole thing, so measure of angle EOC, it's just actually the measure of angle 1 plus the measure of angle 2. Oopsie. That was plus the measure of angle 2. There you go. All right. What does this remind you of from, the previous lessons that we did? Please take off your earphones, honey. So, what does this remind you of? Do we have a counterpart of this for line segments? Yeah, when you did that worksheet, right? When you had two smaller segments and you add them up to form the whole thing, right? So angle addition postulate is like the segment addition postulate. It can combine two angles, but they have to be side by side. Okay? So let's add that to your new word today. You can only add angles using the angle addition postulate if they are adjacent angles. So what do I mean by adjacent angles? They're right next to each other. Okay. Nadia, are you writing this down on page 22? All right. Okay. So what we're going to do today is to practice measuring the angles. So on your workbook, have you copied this down? I'm going to erase. Okay. We're going to read the measurements. We're going to read what it shows on the protractor to find the actual measures. When we are done, you will enter your answers again in Schoology for accuracy. Okay? So I'm going to show you two examples, and then the rest, you got to do them. Okay, the ink will disappear now. Okay, so first, let's try AOB. Okay, so AOB is this angle right here. Oopsie. No, annotate. Okay, so AOC, what am I doing? AOC. So 1, 2, and then there. Okay, so to find the measure of AOC, the fastest way is, you can count, guys. How do you count? Well, if we count the number of jumps right here, that's going by 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60 and a half. So that will be 65 degrees, right? Now, another way to do it is you can also start from 0. You know, this is the 0 here. Okay, and then you go in this direction 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60 and a half. That's another way. Now, the last way to find measure of angles is you subtract the number here, which is 180, take away the number where it is at, so that's going to be 115, right? Because it's between 110 and 120. Okay, when you subtract that, you're also going to get 65 degrees. So there are 3 ways to find the measure. But just like what I said, if you just want to count, just like when you count the boxes on the Cartesian plane, you can do that as well. So AOC is 65. Can you pick another one that you want me to help you with? Let's do BOD, just because we already found an angle that starts from the line. So what if, okay, I'm going to erase this one. We can start all over again. Okay, so let me do COE. Let's do that. So COE is this one. There you go. All right. So if you don't want to count the boxes, you want to do subtraction, let's do that. So one line is at 115. That's 115 right here. Okay, and then the other line is between, is that exactly between 30 and 40? Yeah, okay, so then 35. Okay, so what's the difference between 115 and 35? 80, right? So that means COE is 80. There you go. If you want to verify, that's going to be half right here, another half right there, and then 10, 20, 30, 40, 60, 70, and then 80. Oopsie. What did I do wrong? 11. Huh? Did I count wrong? It's 80, right? So 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, and then 5 plus 5, that's a 10. There you go. I think I put the things on the wrong stuff. I forgot the degree mark. Thank you for catching that. There you go. In Schoology, though, there's no, like, symbol for the degree sign, so I just put the numbers. All right, so can I give you 5 minutes to do that, and then when you're done, enter your answers in Schoology. Okay.